The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Mission of the Vedanta, an address delivered by Swami Vivekananda to the residents of Kumkonam in 1897, Part 6. Therefore, the world is waiting for this grand idea of universal toleration. It will be great acquisition to civilization. Nay, no civilization can long exist unless this idea enters into it. No civilization can grow unless fanatics, bloodshed, and brutality stop. No civilization can begin to lift up its head until we look charitably upon one another. And the first step towards that much needed charity is to look charitably and kindly upon the religious convictions of others. Nay, more, to understand that not only should we be charitable, but positively helpful to each other, however different our religious ideas and convictions may be. And that is exactly what we do in India, as I have just related to you. It is here in India that the Hindus have built and are still building churches for Christians and mosques for Mohammedans. That is the thing to do. In spite of their hatred, in spite of their brutality, in spite of their cruelty, in spite of their tyranny, and in spite of the vile language that they are given to uttering, we will and must go on building churches for Christians and mosques for Mohammedan until we conquer through love, until we have demonstrated to the world that love alone is the fittest thing to survive and not hatred, that it is gentleness that has the strength to live on and to fructify, and not mere brutality and physical force. The other great idea that the world wants from us today, the thinking part of Europe, nay, the whole world, more perhaps the lower classes than the higher, more the masses than the cultured, more the ignorant than the educated, more the weak than the strong, is that grand idea of the spiritual oneness of the whole universe. I need not tell you today, men from Madras University, how the modern researches of the West have demonstrated through physical means the oneness and solidarity of the whole universe. How physically speaking, you and I, the sun, moon, stars, and the little waves or wavelets in the midst of the infinite ocean of matter, how Indian psychology demonstrated ages ago that similarly both body and mind, but mere names of little waves in ocean of matter, the Samishti, and how, going one step further, it is shown in the Vedanta that behind that idea of the unity of the whole show, the real soul is one. There is but one soul throughout the universe. All is but one existence. This great idea of the real and the basic solidarity of the whole universe has frightened many, even in this country. It even now finds sometimes more opponents than adherents. I will tell you nevertheless that it is the one great life-giving idea which the world wants from us today, and which the mute masses of India want for their uplifting, for none can regenerate this land of ours without the practical application and effective operation of this ideal of oneness of things. The rational West is earnestly bent upon seeking out the rationality, the raison d'etre of all its philosophy and its ethics. And you all know well that ethics cannot be derived from the mere sanction of any personage, however great and divine he may have been. Such an explanation of the authority of ethics appeals no more to the highest of the world thinkers. They want something more than human sanction for ethics and moral codes to be binding. They want some ethical principles of truth as the sanction of ethics. And where is that eternal sanction to be found except in the only infinite reality that exists in you and in me and in all, in the self and in the soul? The infinite oneness of the soul is the eternal sanction of all morality, that you and I are not only brothers. Every literature voicing man's struggle towards freedom has preached that for you, but that you and I are really one. This is the dictate of Indian philosophy. This oneness is the rationale of all ethics and all spirituality. Europe wants it today just as much as our downtrodden masses do. And this great principle is even now unconsciously forming the basis of all the latest political and social aspirations that are coming up in England, in Germany, in France, and in America. And mark it, my friends, that in and through all the literature voicing man's struggle towards freedom, towards universal freedom, again and again you will find the Indian Vedantic ideals coming out prominently. In some cases, the writers do not know the source of their inspiration. In some cases, they try to appear very original, but a few there are bold and grateful enough to mention the source and acknowledge their indebtedness to it.